Hello everybody! I'm going to fix my screen so that there's an Allison. Oh wait, no, I have a thing. Haha! Look! It's both of us.
Hey! Why am I bigger?
'Cause you're fancier than me?
That's true.
I definitely think that's true, but I can make us, look, we're equally sized now. Is that okay?
Yes.
Hi Silver!
Hello!
Okay, so everybody, welcome to the live broadcast of the Button List podcast, live from Beating Dreams in Dallas, Texas, featuring Allison
And Heather. During this broadcast, we will delve into the stories of famous gemstones, past and present, looking to amuse, delight, and possibly disturb you.
We are happy that you are here joining in the conversation live online.
As you all know, sometimes we get a little spicy.
Please be aware that the following broadcast may contain mature content.
Thank you for supporting small businesses.
And we hope that you enjoy our show. So, hi everybody. We are so happy to be here with you this evening. And today we are going to explore the convoluted story of the Sancy Diamond. And this is going to start like way, way, way back. Like there's a whole lot of old history about this diamond. About this diamond. So let's start with the facts. Okay, the facts are the Sancy Diamond is a light yellow colored diamond. And in its current iteration, it is approximately 55 carats. The diamond is an unusual cut, having 2 crowns and no pavilion. So for anybody who is familiar or not familiar with the way that a gemstone is typically cut, the crown is the top part. So when you have, say, an engagement ring, the crown's the part that has the flat bit and the facets, and then you got the girdle around the outside, and then the pavilion is the pointy bit at the bottom. So the Sancy is essentially 2 crowns that are back to back, and it has no pavilion. So it is an unusual cut, and it is often described as resembling a peach pit. The Sancy currently resides in the collection of the Louvre. After being sold to the museum in 1978 by the 4th Viscount Astor for a reported $1 million.
Now, the history. So the Sancy began as the Bal de Flandre, which was an over 100 carat diamond of Indian origin. You may remember that we've talked about Mughal diamonds before, and so it probably looked very, very different at that point, the way it was cut. Legend said it was smuggled out of India by a Venetian. We'll call him Sam. I don't know.
All of the research just said a Venetian or a Venetian diamond cutter. That was all there was in the lore about Mr. Sam.
Well, Sam the smuggler smuggled it out, and it made its way into the dowry of Valentina Visconti when she married Louis I, Duke of Orleans. And in the years...
Heather gets to say so many French things in this cast.
The years following Valentina's nuptials were a fierce power struggle between the Burgundians and the Armagnacs. And after Louis was assassinated in 1407...
He did.
We're back to our subtitle.
We're back to our subtitle. He did.
Mm-hmm. Valentina then sold the Bal de Flandre to raise funds for the Armagnac.
But
they lost anyway.
Whoops.
And the diamond made its way to the Burgundians, so now they're just making off with the win and the spoils and all of the
awesomeness. Womp for the Armagnac.
Yes. So the diamond made its way to Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy, 1467 to 1477.
That was his 10 years Duke, not his entire lifespan, by the way. He did not, gain dukedom at birth and die at age 10. That would not be unusual for the period. It would not be
unusual for this particular podcast, but it was not the case.
But it was not the case in this instance.
So Charles is the one who had the Bal de Flandre cut down and refined into the diamond currently known as the Sancy. And as we've discussed before, a lot of the time Mughal diamonds were cut to essentially reflect the natural shape of the stone, which was not really in fashion in Europe as much. So then he, for reasons of his own, decided to make a peach pit.
Yeah, I mean, and lose almost half of the carat weight of the diamond.
Who knows where it went?
Who knows? I was not able to find any documentation at all as to what happened to the rest of the diamond. So I maybe he just like cut it into confetti and like flung it everywhere, which, you know, maybe that was, we're going to talk about diamond parties in a little bit, so, you know.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? There are a lot of questions in this particular story, which is interesting, and so you can choose your favorite in some of the options here.
There definitely is some choose your own adventure coming up. Yes. Absolutely.
So Charles the Bold believed that the diamond brought extraordinary luck in battle and provided invincibility, and he always wore it into battle, which was great until he lost the Battle of Grandson in 1476.
Oops.
Yeah. It was thought that the diamond itself was lost until it resurfaced 10 years later in a sale to a German financier who is considered by historians to be the richest man in history. Which is saying a lot.
Yes.
So his name was Jacob Fugger, or Fugger, or Fugger, or
and what was his moniker?
Jacob Fugger the Rich.
I still think it should be Jacob the Fucking Rich, yes. But anyway, or the Rich Fugger. So where was that diamond for that entire decade? Well, it turns out that the Bishop of Basel had spirited it away and concealed it for 10 years. What was he doing?
Playing with no face.
The Sancy for 10 years. Was he having crazy diamond parties? Was he renting it out? Was he like using it to entice women to his bed? You know, because bishops I'm sorry, but bishops at that point in time,
I'm saying,
yeah,
that makes it more likely.
so yeah,
he wasn't married.
So those 10 years, the Bishop of Basel was doing who knows what with the Sancy, and then yes, it did resurface and it was sold to Jacob the Rich Fugger. In turn, Jacob the Rich Fugger sold the diamond to King Manuel I of Portugal in exchange for exclusive rights in the spice trade, specifically in pepper, I believe. So now...
Smart move.
Yeah, seriously. So now okay, so this is where some things get a little murky here, and...
Yes.
Yes,
Corvus.
Everyone hears it. It was purposeful. So there are a couple of different points in the history of the Sancy where the history really diverges, and in my opinion, at least most of the time, it's pretty obvious just from context which is the correct story, or which is the most likely story, and which is the like, what the...
But you can play Choose Your Own Adventure, so you can, whichever one sounds better to you.
Okay, so we've got two options here. So yes, you may vote if you prefer on which is your favorite option. So after Mr. Fugger sells the diamond,
the rich fucker,
to King Manuel of Portugal. And by the way, I would just like to say that there is an article that I used as a primary source for this podcast, and I have no idea who it was by because I printed it out, but I didn't print out any accrediting information, and whoever wrote this article, I love them to death. So
we want to be friends.
I want to be friends with them. And I also want to give them credit, and I wish I could. So,
we're going to keep trying to find it.
I'm going to keep trying to find it, and if I do find it with proper accreditation, I will post it on Discord. But, so,
in the comments to this podcast.
Story number 1. When the author of this article puts it, Portugal was about to get its ass handed to it by Spain. Yes, that is a line from the article. When Portugal was about to get its ass handed to it by Spain, Manuel's grandson, this is Manuel, the grandson of Manuel I, who took the diamond from Mr. Richfugger in exchange for exclusive rights in the spice trade. So now this is his grandson. So when Spain was about to beat the crap out of Portugal, Manuel's grandson, and this is option 1. Remember, this is choose your own adventure. So this is option 1. Manuel's grandson fled Portugal with a portion of the Portuguese crown jewels. My guess is as much as he could fit in a couple of packs on a horse, and he just rode that horse right on out of Portugal. And then once escaping Portugal, he then sold the diamond to Nicolas de Harlay, Seigneur de Sancy. That is where the name the Sancy Diamond comes from, in an attempt to raise funds to try and retake the Portuguese crown. Hashtag spoiler alert, not gonna happen, dude. Second story, so that's 1 of choose your own adventure. Number 2 is somehow the gem wound up in Constantinople and Nicolas de Sancy purchased it there. Either way, this was around 1570 that this happened. So I know which one I think is probably the more accurate version of the tale. Does anyone have any thoughts? Heather, what are your thoughts?
I always like a good story. So
how did the gem get to Constantinople then?
It flew in a flying horse.
I mean, considering some of the things we've talked about on this podcast, that's not
actually that far-fetched.
That's not that far-fetched as far as legends of
This is barely
of
Barbishing.
We haven't Barbished at all, actually.
No.
But I am going to just go down with my vote, as I'm pretty sure that, the grandson of Manuel I fled Portugal and then sold the Sancy in an attempt again to raise funds to retake the Portuguese crown. Womp, womp.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Manuel. So, and then, at some point, Nicolas lent the Sancy to Henry III,
Talifet, stop calling in the middle of our podcast.
who was the last Valois king of France. The Valois were kings of England as well for 300 years. Should we pause so you can edit this out?
I feel like maybe we should.
Yeah.
Silvern, are you calling? Okay, that's all right. We're just gonna let we're gonna let the phone stop its ringing, and then we're gonna go back to let's go back to and then.
And then there was the lending of the Sancy to Henri III, the last Valois king of France. The Valois also were kings of England for about 300 years. And the reason he needed the Sancy is because it was just right to cover his bald spot. So,
because, I mean, who doesn't need a giant diamond to cover their bald spot?
Yes. Now, he didn't, paste it to the bald spot. I don't know why I picked a random spot on my head for the bald spot.
I know. What are you saying? You have no bald spots. You have more hair than... You have as much hair as a pre-Raphaelite painting.
I could have lent some hair to Henri.
Yes. You could have lent some hair to the Lady of Shalott.
I could have. So he had a fancy hat, and he liked to cover his bald spot with his fancy hat. Yes.
And diamonds were becoming fashionable then.
So he decided that would draw less attention by drawing attention
to
directly
his fancy
next
hat.
to it, I guess.
Yeah.
So, Sancy also lent the stone to Henri IV, who was the first Bourbon king, as collateral for funds to finance an army.
Not to be confused with the bourbon that we're drinking tonight, which I do have a story about that.
Yes.
When we have a moment of pausing.
So don't eat the gems.
We say that.
We say that.
We mean it.
We mean it. And there are reasons why we say don't eat the gems. Although in this case it actually worked out well that he ate the gems, but
Well, it didn't work out so well for him.
it didn't work out well for him, but he wasn't
But
gonna,
it
was
wasn't
not
going to
gonna
work out well for him anyway. I know.
So the messenger who was tasked with carrying the Sancy to Henry the Fourth was waylaid by brigands, highwaymen, and killed. De Sancy,
He dead.
he dead. De Sancy, convinced that the messenger had been loyal until the end, so he actually had the man's body disinterred.
He had him dug up.
Yeah. Like, he did not betray me, therefore I will...
Like, he dead
him
and
right up.
he dead, he half decayed, and now he dug up.
Yeah.
And
They performed an autopsy, although why it was called an autopsy, I think that's a fancy word for they looked for the stone.
I think that's a word I picked.
Well, I think what happened instead of an actual autopsy was they just...
Really? You're gonna just go for it, Heather?
They found the stone. They just went for it.
They just, yeah.
They found the stone in his stomach,
Mm-hmm.
where he had apparently swallowed it just before he was waylaid. And Allison and I actually talked about this. She said, did he swallow it before he left? And I said, no. I think if he swallowed it before he left, then it would not have been in his stomach.
It would have been somewhere further south.
Yes, it would have, because that's how digestion works. And I was right. So it was still in his stomach.
So Heather was right.
So now we have a Sancy, which has been retrieved
From a decaying corpse.
from a vessel. An
From
earthen
a
vessel.
decaying corpse.
From a decaying
From
corpse.
a loyal decaying corpse.
Very loyal. Very
okay?
loyal.
Like, alright. I will give the corpse credit for being loyal,
Yes.
but ew.
Yeah. I bet they watched it. Probably not with soap.
I hope they watched it. Oh my god. Okay. So, it's my turn now, right?
It's your turn now.
Ah, gross. Okay. So again, there are several stories concerning what happened to the Sancy after its retrieval from the putrefying corpse of the messenger.
You're really stuck on the putrefaction of the corpse.
Hey, this is a
like,
podcast.
how much Bones did you watch
This is a podcast about drama, Heather.
And true crime. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, yes, true crime plus gemstones is
And
kind of my vision for this.
yeah.
So yes.
Jazz hands don't really work for podcasts.
I'm
drama.
focused on the putrefying corpse. Okay, get off my case. So,
Yes, boss.
so after the diamond is retrieved from the messenger, it went back to de Sancy. I don't know that it ever actually made it to Henri IV, but it went back to Sancy. And so there are two stories here, and I'm going to just lead
Hi, Pearl.
with the one. Hey, Pearl. So I'm going to lead with the one that I think is more likely, just again based on historical context.
But again, choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure, because I'm going to give you both of the stories. So the one that I think is most likely is that de Sancy sold the diamond to James I. That would be the heir of Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, in 1605. So this was after Elizabeth had passed and when James I was the monarch of England. And James incorporated the diamond into a jewel called the Mirror of Great Britain, which was composed of diamonds, pearls, and a single ruby. And he would actually wear this as a hat ornament, and there is actually at least one extant painting of James wearing this jewelry, the Mirror of Great Britain, as a hat decoration. So there's actually visual evidence of James I wearing this particular jewel. So,
I have seen it. It could serve as a mirror.
It could serve as a mirror. It could also serve as a bludgeon, really.
Yes.
there are, so that's...
In case you are set upon by highwaymen.
Right? You can just
Whack 'em with
bludgeon
your
them to death. Don't swallow the diamond, just beat them to death with it. So, but there are also, okay, so that's what I think happened. Okay, so I think what happened was de Sancy sold the diamond to James I, and then James I took, and there was another famous diamond which I forgot to write down the name of, but he took a famous diamond, a couple of other diamonds, a ruby, and then the Sancy and made it into the Mirror of Great Britain. That's what I think happened. But there are other reports that say that Sancy actually had sold the diamond to Elizabeth I. And that and this is where I kind of lose this story, because there are reports then that she had herself painted while wearing it, and I have not been able to find any extant paintings of Elizabeth I with the Sancy diamond. There's some possible credence to this claim, since James I did disassemble a whole lot of Elizabeth I's jewelry during his reign and reassemble them into things that better suited him. But again, since I was not able to find...
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, him.
Well, yeah, and, and also... I'm gonna say that, Elizabeth I, James I was the son of, Elizabeth's older sister Mary, and, she kind of had her sister killed, so maybe they didn't have the best relationship.
Also that.
I'm not surprised that James disassembled a number of Elizabeth's jewels, but since I wasn't able to, and not that I have magical librarian powers like some of our audience, but I was not able to find any extant portraits of Elizabeth I with the Sancy, so my personal theory is that it was likely sold to James rather than Elizabeth. If anyone wants to refute that with your magical powers, go for it. But what is known for sure is that the Mirror of England was disassembled and sold in pieces in 1625, and the Sancy changed hands repeatedly until it became part of the French crown jewels in 1654. That was during the Commonwealth, when Charles II was in exile in France and needed money. At that point, the worth of the diamond was £25,000. This is 1654. So how much is that in present day money, Heather?
So what I did was I looked up the value of a pound, 1 pound in 1654 in today's dollars, and that gave me $2,106.30 for 1 pound. So times 25,000
is a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And I kept doing the math because I really wasn't...
She did it like 5 times. I was there.
So that's like $52 million, y'all.
in present day funds.
Yeah. So, yeah. It was reportedly also set into several French crowns, and then rings worn by Marie Antoinette.
And then more brigands.
Brigands are just everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yes. So during the French Revolution, brigands raided the royal treasury and stole the Sancy, along with several other famous jewels, including the Hope Diamond. So we're just gonna do a lot of teasers about the whole Hope Diamond.
We're gonna do a Hope Diamond podcast.
Yeah, but I like that we keep throwing teasers in, because it's just
and
everywhere.
What year was that?
1789. So the diamond passed through several hands and endured mysterious circumstances. Can you imagine this diamond going through mysterious circumstances?
What can be more mysterious than the alimentary canal? I'm just wondering.
We know kind of how that works, at least.
Okay. So
it's pretty...
Did it...
Ooh, that's very cool, Pearl.
Can you post the link to that in the comments, Pearl? Because that would be awesome to read.
And we would like to post it as well.
Yes.
But yes.
So what mysterious circumstances?
Mysterious circumstances.
Like different
again,
dimensions? Like
choose your own adventure with what it did. Diamond parties. Maybe there were more bishops. Who knows? I mean, hopefully no more elementary canals.
How many bishops does it take to screw in a diamond?
Well, at least one.
Okay.
Yes, but
Just checking.
At least one. They weren't so into bishops at that point in France. So, anyway, resurfaced in 1828. So it's been gone for close to 40 years, or actually, yeah, very close to 40 years at this point. And it was sold to a wealthy Russian buyer and then an Indian prince.
Yes.
So it just keeps going all over the world, and it's back in India, which is exciting. At this point, the price of the Sancy was now 100,000 pearls. 100,000 pounds!
100,000 pearls! Thank you, Pearl.
And it was sold to an unknown buyer. So many questions. In 1865.
Yeah, I will say this particular stone has a much more detail, like there's a lot more known about it in like the distant misty past, and then it gets murky in the future, whereas with a lot of the stones we've talked about, like the distant misty past is the murky part, and the present, or not present, but the near past is the one that we know more about. But this one's like, nah, yeah, we don't know what happened to it for 40 years.
I like to think it was
gone.
having adventures instead of sitting in someone's drawer, but at that point in time, there were definitely people who had gems like the Sancy just in a box.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
never saw the light of day. So.
All right, so I want to talk about the asters, and I specifically, we're actually both going to talk about the asters, but I was actually quite surprised to find the asters as a part of this story in England, because I was familiar with the asters as a prominent American family, and I had no clue that a branch of the Astor family actually had migrated to England and had become part of the peerage there. And this is why. Okay, so William Waldorf Astor, this is a senior William Waldorf Astor. Upon his father's death in 1890, William Waldorf Astor inherited why do I keep saying Astor? Astor. Inherited a fortune. I don't know. I do not know.
Because of the hotel?
I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Inherited a fortune that made him the second wealthiest man in America, behind John D. Rockefeller. So, Astor decided to construct a hotel, spoiler alert, it was the Waldorf Hotel, on the spot of his former residence. Unfortunately, said hotel overshadowed the adjacent mansion of his auntie, Carolina Schmemmerhorn, not making that up.
Nope, real name.
Carolina Schmemmerhorn Astor, who shall henceforth be referred to as Auntie Lena.
Because we can go a lot of directions accidentally with Schmemmerhorn.
Yeah.
I mean, we had fun with the rich
Fugger.
But
So Auntie Lena was incredibly bitter about the commercial establishment, which, by the way, again, was the Waldorf Hotel. It's not like he built a Super 8 next to her mansion.
But this wasn't done, Allison.
Yeah, well, apparently, I'm just a middle-class Midwestern girl. What do I know? But Auntie Lena was super bitter about the commercial establishment next door, and eventually but here's the funny thing. Eventually her son, John Jacob Astor IV, who would have been William Waldorf Astor's cousin.
I like all the alliteration in their names.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt is just kind of running through my head.
John Jacob Schmemmerhorn Schmidt.
So, her son convinced her to move away so he could also build a hotel on the site of her mansion. And coincidentally, this hotel was slightly larger in width and slightly taller in height than the Waldorf. And can anyone guess what that hotel was named?
Why? I can guess.
Ooh, what do you guess?
The Astoria.
It was the Astoria, and eventually the Waldorf and the Astoria wound up operating as one complex called the Waldorf Astoria, as we know it today. But Auntie Lena would not let it go.
It wasn't done, Allison.
Auntie Lena needed something. Maybe some sherry, maybe some opium, maybe she needed a gentleman friend. But
or a doctor's care for hysteria.
But Auntie Lena insisted that she was the capital V Mrs. Astor of New York society, which, by the way, she had done previously before William Waldorf Astor's father had passed as well. So Auntie Lena was just really all about it.
About Auntie Lena? Yes.
Yeah. So eventually, William Waldorf Astor just up and took his family and went to England.
He took his ball and he went home.
Yeah, he was like,
or
see, Auntie, like, anyway. Here, Auntie Lena, have New York. Peace out. And so he bought a lavish estate at Cliveden, and eventually he was created first the Baron and then the Viscount Astor.
So Nancy Langhorne Astor was a Virginia girl, the 8th of 11 children.
There's a lot of children.
I swear there are other things to do in Virginia, but...
Are you sure?
Yes. Maybe there were fewer things back then. But her family fell on hard times and then made it really big in the railroad industry, because the railroad industry made a lot of people a lot
of money.
And a lot of people a little dead. But that's also the running theme in our...
He dead
and
definitely,
they dead.
Yeah. Yes, he dead and they dead.
Her sister Irene married Charles Dana Gibson and became the original Gibson girl. She originally married a quote-unquote shitty drunk.
This is the same article. Again, I want to be friends with whoever wrote this article. And I need to find it again.
And his name was Robert Gould Shaw. And after 4 years, she finally managed to divorce him after first trying to leave him on their honeymoon. I don't know where they were honeymooning, but I honestly, reading the rest of this about her, I'm shocked she didn't succeed. So finally she managed to divorce him and headed to England to try her luck on the marriage market there, because the British marriage market in that particular era, if you had American money, you could go buy a title like crazy. Because they were, a lot of them, just going begging. So she married the younger William Waldorf Astor, so she didn't even quite get British, she just got like refrigerated American.
But he was microwavable as the second Viscount.
Yeah. I mean, he did at least have a title. And the couple received the Cliveden estate as a wedding gift. The first Viscount really didn't need Cliveden at that point, because he was now living in Evere Castle, which was Anne Boleyn's ancestral home. Like you do. Yeah. The first Viscount, the elder William Waldorf Astor, also purchased the Sancy Diamond.
I got sick of typing William Waldorf, so I just put W.W. Astor.
Woo, Astor. He purchased the Sancy Diamond as a gift to Nancy personally. Which sounds so sweet.
Doesn't it? That sounds so nice.
It does, but why? Why did he do this? Because he thought it was cursed, and he didn't like her. So he wanted her to have a cursed diamond for the rest of her life. So rich people be petty.
Yeah. Rich people being petty rich people.
Yeah. Thank goodness there are orcas now. So the Sancy was then set in a tiara, which Nancy wore in her lively society life, because it's a shame we don't wear more now. But,
seriously.
Yeah. She actually became the first female sitting MP in the House of Commons in 1919, when her husband had to take over his father's seat in the House of Lords. So he couldn't cover 2 seats simultaneously, so she was like, I'm doing this.
You can't cover 2 seats with one ass.
Yeah, and all the same, that was not entirely well received, but that's, you know, it was early days.
Right. I didn't. Oh my God. I didn't
So
even
we
put
need
the
to- we need to
Winston
include
Churchill
that.
thing in here.
So she met Winston Churchill.
Who was not a fan of women in politics.
No. And there were a lot of people who were not a fan of Nancy because she was not going to sugarcoat anything for you, according to anything I've read about her.
Yeah.
So she told him, "Sir, if you were my husband, I would poison your coffee."
And he replied, "Ma'am, if I were your husband, I would drink it." So Winston Churchill and Nancy Astor, not friends.
No.
Not friendly at all. Also, another tidbit, I got tired of typing, and I was typing very, very fast. But another fun tidbit about Nancy is when she was a nurse in World War II. So we're backing up or World War I? World War I.
War One, yeah.
Yeah. No, she was, yeah. I'm sorry, time's a thing. But
Yes.
yeah, when she was a nurse in World War I, she would, when she was nursing soldiers and she felt they were losing the will to live, she would bet them. She would say, "You don't have any gumption. I bet you my wristwatch you're going to be dead by tomorrow." And if the soldier survived until tomorrow, she would give them her wristwatch or whatever she had decided to bet them.
Because she could get another one.
Yeah, that they were going to
did.
die. You know, which was, I think, again, lots of gumption and definitely a whole lot of sass. Now, unfortunately, Nancy went a bit crazy in her latter years.
Yeah.
She had some...
Like, she would have been really fun to talk to up until...
Yeah, and it was not specific as to when her later years were. So I don't know when exactly she went round the bend, but apparently she had some strange conspiracy theories about Catholics and also some not very nice things to say about Jews. She said she was proud to be the daughter of a slave owner and blamed alcohol consumption when England's cricket team lost to Australia.
To be
Oops.
fair, there probably was alcohol consumption.
There was probably alcohol consumption on both sides.
Yeah.
You know, sporting event.
Yeah.
She eventually became estranged from her husband and her children, and when
Probably because she kept opening her mouth and things like this were coming out.
Mm-hmm. And when she died, she was buried in England with a Confederate flag. So that's a
This is
thing.
well into the 20th century, y'all.
Yeah. No, yeah, we're definitely in the 20th century. We are in enlightened times, but Nancy
We're only
is
a little enlightened. I mean, we're still barely
okay, but Nancy is like de-enlightening herself at this
yes,
point.
she was actively
regressing.
Yes.
And so rest in peace, Nancy. But she did accomplish before the craziness. I mean, she did accomplish a lot
the 2 steps
in her
forward,
life. And then
several steps back, but
Yeah.
forward. So if you
Forward.
just stop there, then it's a good story.
always forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can take the last part.
So after she died, the Sancy passed to her son and then to her grandson, who was then the 4th Viscount. And after an extended loan, the 4th Viscount sold the Sancy to the Louvre in 1978, not
Not
1798.
1798, which is what I typed.
Yes. For $1 million. So
the question I asked Heather when she was doing all the math is, did the Sancy actually depreciate over time?
and we determined that it pretty much did. I didn't actually finish the conversion
From 1978?
from 1978, but there is no way.
There's no way $1 million in 1978 equals $52 million today.
Well, I don't know. I mean, people were buying houses for $10,000, so maybe.
Well, but yeah, so, and so the Sancy has resided in the Louvre as far as I know ever since its sale in 1978. Are you doing the math now?
I am doing the math
Okay.
now. Yeah.
Corvus is postulating that somebody poisoned Nancy's tea. and that drove her slowly crazy.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the arsenic.
No, so $1 in 1978 had the same purchasing power as $4.61.
Okay, so it depreciated from $52 million to $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
That's interesting. Though it also didn't have quite the same cachet in 1978. For instance, nobody thought that it was going to make them invincible or victorious in battle, I don't think.
Or hide a bald spot.
Yes, there's also that. So,
or taste delicious if you swallowed it.
I don't think the guy who swallowed it thought it would taste delicious.
No, you don't think so?
I don't. No, I'm not gonna buy that. I don't think I. What does go through your head though? Because okay, I mean 55 carats. This is not a small. Like,
No, it's
how
not
did
small.
he not choke on it?
Well, it's probably a good thing in this case that it didn't have the pavilion. But it is about the size of an actual peach pit.
Like,
so imagine trying to swallow that.
Yeah. So, you know,
Allison doesn't do well with
normal
size force pills.
No, I do not. I don't give me a
like
big,
a full size vitamin. No,
nope,
that's too big.
nope. So yeah, giant diamond. No, I would have projectile vomited that all over the highwaymen.
But you know that some creatures use that as a defense mechanism.
Well, apparently I am one of them. Though, to be fair, I have never tried to swallow a 55 carat diamond.
That we do recommend against swallowing all gemstones.
Again, yeah.
Don't eat the beads.
Don't eat the beads. Don't eat the beads. Don't eat the gemstones. It's not good for any part of you.
No.
And that's it. Like it's really, I find interesting that like the history of the Sancy comes to a very like abrupt conclusion. Like there's
because now we know what it's doing. It's sitting there winking at people.
Like there's all of this history from back.
They do look like gummies.
Back in the day.
Now it's just being the saucy Sancy.
So it's interesting. It never was. So there was a question about what exactly was cursed about the Sancy, and I was never actually able to find anything. And I have another thing to say about this diamond as well, but I was never able to find anything that enumerated the curse. The only thing I was ever able to find about the Sancy was Charles the Bold, who thought that, you know,
made him invincible.
It made him invincible. Yeah. But I was never able to find any substantiation behind William Waldorf Astor's assertion that the diamond was cursed. So I have no idea what the curse was. Also, I will say that of the stones that we have talked about, this one has less of a terrible history as far as
the masses
and oppression and, you know, theft and things like that.
I think that one guy felt like it was pretty terrible history.
Well, yeah, you mean the one who ate it?
The one who ate it, yeah.
Yeah, but it wasn't, I mean, it was smuggled out of Venice, and then, I mean, it was, I don't know, it was passed through a bunch of bloody battles from white guys, but it wasn't, aside from that first time,
there was mostly bloody battles between white guys
and between like royal people. It wasn't, you know, there wasn't a lot of abuse of disadvantaged people that I could find in the story. So I guess that makes it one of the less awful diamonds that we've talked about. And yeah, there were a number of he deads in this story.
True.
Like, he dead was mentioned several times, but
not usually because of the diamond.
Right. Just because of, you know, politics and wars and you know,
people needing to be right.
And yeah.
So
So I mean, as far as but it's interesting. I find this diamond very interesting because it's got a very long history. It's one of the ones that we have where once again, the further back history is much more detailed, and you know the mysterious circumstances happened, you know, more in the present, which is interesting because, as previously stated, a lot of the other diamonds, you know, the past is very misty, and also the past is sometimes, you know, drenched with not super great things. So yeah, so that's the Sancy Diamond. Heather, do you have anything to add, or do you have any takeaways from the Sancy Diamond story?
Again, just not eating beads. But if you have to eat a bead, don't eat, or a gem. I think choosing one without a pavilion is actually a solid choice.
I'm gonna say if you have to eat a gem, make sure you get murdered immediately after.
I think that's fair.
So
yeah,
unless you can ensure that, just don't do it. Yeah. So I think that's it for us on the Sancy Diamond.
And you too can go see it.
You can at the Louvre. So thanks so much for joining us on this week's crazy journey, where once again we discover that big gems equal crazy decisions on all counts.
You can catch the Button List live weekly on Facebook and Twitch, and episodes drop weekly on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube.
Yes, we are live on all platforms, folks. That does why
I was looking at that.
What's going on?
And yes, and if you do listen to our podcast, even if you are just checking in to make sure it is still there, having listened to it live, don't forget to review and rate us.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why. Okay. Yes. Let's go ahead and do that outro again because I don't know what is going on. But now we're back.
Back.
Okay, so let's try that one more time for Corvus and all of the people in the chat. So, thanks so much for joining us on this week's crazy journey, where we once again discover that big gems equal crazy decisions on all counts.
You can catch the Button List live weekly on Facebook and Twitch, and episodes drop weekly on Spotify, iTunes, and YouTube.
And we are live on all platforms. Don't forget, if you have been watching or listening to the Button List on Spotify or iTunes, please leave a review for us. It really does help push the podcast to other viewers, and that is something that we would really appreciate from everyone.
Yes. And if you are listening to this and would like to sponsor us, let us know.
Yes, we're looking for sponsors. Somebody tell us how to do that. So thanks everyone, and have a good night. Bye.
Bye.